Mm, I like that we're both wearing light colors. I feel like we not usually, but we often compliment each other.
We do.
I mean,
Like,
we
you're so
always
beautiful
compliment each
today.
other.
You're such a kind friend.
Good friend. Well, oh dear.
A
Sorry,
new
computer.
Paisley Pants podcast. Good idea to Jed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? This is not gonna work.
Welcome back to the Paisley Pants podcast. This is your host, Paisley Pants, and today I get to introduce my brand new co-host, Maxie Girl.
Oh, nice. Naturally,
Maxie
she's
Girl wants to talk about how to not let your parents get mad at you after you've had a trash party.
Oh no! Did she tear up the trash?
No, the two of them when we went out on Saturday. They were good Saturday afternoon, and like nothing changed about the trash because it was locked, but like it doesn't fully lock anymore, I guess. So we got back Saturday night. It was a really full trash, but they didn't like knock it over and get everything like either of them usually would. But I had put do you know what chicharrones are?
No.
They're pork rinds basically. Like
Uh-huh.
one of the guys from work like made them fresh and gave them to Jed, some to Jed, and they've been on top of our fridge and he hasn't eaten them. So I finally threw them away.
Oh.
And but yeah, there's like just like a few pieces of paper out, and like when we walked in Saturday night, like it was like Paisley Ann Huth and Maxie Soto, and like Paisley went to her
Paisley
bed.
Ann
Maxie went,
Huth?
yeah,
Her middle name is
she
Ann?
needed it. I gave it to her. She needed a
Got
middle
it.
name.
Got it.
And for situations like this, obviously. And Maxie
Obviously.
goes to Emmeline's bed, and Maxie's doing the like on her back, like ears down, frozen thing. So
Yeah.
her belly's out. And
Oh my
she
gosh.
stayed frozen. And I said, we weren't mad. We didn't yell at them. I was like, oh, what did you do? And she just stayed. And then to follow it up, yesterday morning, they were both cuddling me in bed. And then Paisley got down and she was in the living room with Jed. And Maxie was still with me. And all of a sudden, Jed walks in. He goes, look what Paisley just found in Maxie's blanket in her bed. And it was a chicharrone, like a pork rind.
Oh.
And didn't even say a word or look at Maxie, and Maxie saw it and immediately went,
Oh, that's funny. She's like, no, I didn't
just
do
love
it.
me, here's my belly.
Can't. Fine, you go that way then. Just gonna be the way it is. Just the way it is. Some things will change. Okay. Wait. Oh, because you're doing the built-in microphone. Good thing I tested you, fool. Fool.
Thank you for reminding me, because I didn't do that either yet.
Testing now. That's right. Test microphone. Yeah, definitely working. All right. Becky.
I got some notes.
Good, because I got none.
And you know that we definitely agreed that we changed it to the relationship one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a reason? What was the reason you wanted to change?
I want to make it really good and I need a little more time.
Oh, okay. Fine about me.
Ready to record?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Ready to clap? 1, 2, 3.
That's not on.
Oh, it's 1.
Okay. Do you want to start? Do you want me to start? I feel like you should start.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the In Raw Life podcast. You made it. Yep, that's our new intro. No, except it's not, because you just heard our intro and you know it's not true, but I felt like singing to you today, so you're welcome. Before we get into today's episode, I want to remind you that if you love how much we sing and act ridiculous and be so silly, please subscribe and write us a review. I mean, it can seriously just be like, this is great. That's how quick it can be. It can be super fast, or it could be more in depth if you feel so inclined. But if you give us a review and subscribe and give us a rating, it really helps our podcast to grow. So please do that now. 5 stars, please. Otherwise, you don't have to rate it. It's totally fine. But for real, thank you guys so much for coming back continually. We love you helping us grow.
And you can also help us grow by joining our community on Instagram at inrawlife.co, where you can share our posts, like our posts, comment, engage with us, DM us, whatever you would like to do. And you can join our Facebook community, Empowered Unstoppable Women, if you find yourself being or wanting to be an empowered, unstoppable woman, then that is the place for you.
Mhm. All right. Well, let's get started. But before we talk about today's topic, let's do our rawality check. So if you're new here, I just want to say that we do rawality checks because we want to show that yes, we have a podcast. Yes, we have a very successful business. However, it doesn't mean we've got all of our poop together all the time, because we all have moments where life gets a little hard and it's just tough, and we got to trudge through that. So, or sometimes it's great and those moments need to be celebrated, but it's just a reminder that life can have a roller coaster of emotions, but you don't have to be stuck in those emotions. You just keep riding through and you will get through it. So, that all being said, Jessica, what is your rawality check today?
I don't know. Well, today's topic is probably helping me a little bit, but my rawality check today, no, it's not silly. It's not silly. It's life. Mother's Day was yesterday. We're recording on a Monday. And like over the years, I've realized just don't put it on any sort of pedestal and expect anything. But even when you don't set any bar, like there's still that little inkling inside, like, oh, like today's my day. And it just, I mean, and I feel obnoxious for saying this because they did their things in their own way, the two people in my life, but it's still just like on Mother's Day, I literally just want to not have to do housework of any sort and also not make decisions. Like I'm the decision maker in the house. It comes naturally to me, and also most of the decisions he just defers to me, which is fine because I enjoy it. But like I said, specifically the things that I would like, and I even wrote on our like menu on the calendar for dinner, I wrote someone else pick. And it's like, you know what I like hopefully you know me well enough, and maybe that's the two in me coming out too, like just know what I want and do it, having to tell you explicitly. So, yeah, and then like, Emmeline was with her dad half the weekend, so I got her back. So she was, of course, very, very tired and could get whiny and stuff. She was pretty good. And then she like drives the nail in by saying, like, if something came up between him and I, she's like, but it's mommy's day. And then there's like conflict. I'm like, this is not what I want on a Sunday in general, especially on Mother's Day. So figure it out. So it's just, it kind of, and that like brings up the like uncomfortable feelings of, ugh, which is exactly this kind of stuff that we're going to talk about today. But yeah, so I don't know. It's one side of me is don't ever put it on a pedestal. It's just another day, whatever. But at the same time, it would be nice to have a day that's a little more extra special and feeling like I'm extra special.
Yeah, I know. I totally hear you. I'm the same way on like, well, Mother's Day is hard for me because I share it with Jay's birthday. I mean, like today is technically his birthday, but still, like he was gone for the weekend because of his birthday, and I was alone with the boys on Mother's Day. But I still like, so I just tell myself it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, and I do the same thing with Valentine's Day because we decided a long time ago that that's a Hallmark holiday and we shouldn't put it on a pedestal. But then I also am like, well, it's not terrible to like be treated, like it is kind of nice. So I think I told Jay this Valentine's Day, like I actually would appreciate it if we celebrated it, sort of.
And well,
But
like you guys come together and you find the agreements, or if he really doesn't care about it, but he knows that you care about it, then there should be something there.
well, I think the problem was that I said I didn't care about it because I was trying to convince myself that I didn't care about it. It's such a, staged holiday and you should love each other all the time. But then I'm like, you know what? All these people post about things they're doing on Valentine's Day, and I would like it if I just got some flowers or a date. Really, just a date. A date is all I want. But I'm deprived of dates with him anyway, so I think I'm just longing for a date always. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I hear you. I
I
hear
had
ya.
might be in the same boat on this.
What?
I said I had a feeling we might be in the same boat on this.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Definitely.
then it kind of got exacerbated, which I don't like to do the comparing thing, but it got exacerbated by I was like couldn't fall asleep last night, so I was on Facebook and looking just like at random things. And then some of the mom groups, like I saw multiple posts of other women complaining, like, should I complain about this? Like it just felt like another day, like nobody, or whether nobody did anything, or worse, like they were extra obnoxious to the. And everyone's like, yeah, F him. Like Father's Day is coming up. You get your retribution. And I was like, well, number one, retribution is not the way to go. But it's sad that we as women do so friggin' much. And all we want is to feel appreciated and valued. And that might be different ways for each of us. But it would be nice.
I will say, I think that if you approach it from a different mindset, like yesterday, I knew Jay wasn't going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew the day was probably going to be a little tough because, like, it is Mother's Day, but my kids are too young to know what that means. And I'm going to be by myself being like a mom without a partner. So, like, single moms out there, I give you a lot of praise. But I woke up and I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to put any pressure on myself. I'm going to do whatever I want today. And it actually might have helped that Jay wasn't there because then I didn't have expectations from him. Like I made myself have zero expectations. And then I twisted things to look at things. Like I looked at things a little differently. Like the boys are at an age now where they'll get up and go downstairs and play so I can sleep a little longer. So they did that. And Gray came up and brought me a bag of granola and
Mm-hmm.
that he like loves to snack on. And he was like, open. And I was like, oh, you brought mommy breakfast in bed for Mother's Day. How sweet. Like I made it to where they're just living their lives. But like I'm going to look at how good they are to me
Yeah.
in every moment. This is something he would do any day. But the fact that he did it today was for Mother's Day. And then I told Arrow, I'm like, hey, it's Mother's Day. I tried to explain it to him. I'm like, you want to make my coffee? And I taught him how to do it. And then he's like, I got to make Mama's coffee. And he was so proud of getting to do that. And so like I think I kept like I still had that sadness of like, oh, I just wish I could like go get a pedicure today or something. But at the same time, I'm like, this is a beautiful day because I'm with the people I love, and I'm just gonna look at the things that are everyday humdrum as a present to me. And then I went and bought
Yeah.
myself a bunch of plants, so that was a present to me.
Yeah. I mean, I lived 7, 8 years where I was a single. I mean, whether I was married or not, because it was to a Marine. So I lived 7 to 8 years of Mother's Days being a single mom, where I planned it the day before that like the the sink was empty, so I didn't have to do any dishes on Mother's Day, and I made it so that we like got all different meals out because I didn't want to have to cook. And that was fine. And I like gave presents myself. Last year, my beautiful Monstera plant was my Mother's Day gift to myself.
I bought
And
a
the year
Monstera plant for
before
me this
was like
year.
my curler. Oh, good. Well, it'll be huge by next year because
That's
mine
what
is huge.
I'm hoping because I got a super tiny one because the huge one was $224, and I said no, thank you. That's insane.
I'm not giving debt for Mother's Day to myself.
What?
I'm not giving debt to myself for
No,
Mother's.
I don't need that.
But yeah, I mean, I
Oh,
hear you. I've been the same way, but now it's like, Emmeline's older. Like last year, I think she made me a peanut butter sandwich and carrots in bed for Mother's
oh,
Day.
that's so sweet.
But then, yeah, it's like I have someone in the house, but we're not married. He's not technically my kid's father, but it's the appreciation and value thing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like one of the biggest things to me is when somebody who doesn't even have kids, a guy who doesn't even have kids, sends a text message saying Happy Mother's Day. Because it's just
Mhm.
showing like it doesn't matter.
I
It always
see
makes me mad
you.
when guys are like, oh, well, you're not the mother of my kids or whatever. Like, that's not what
You're not
matters.
my mom.
You are a mother to the future generation. You're doing great things for the future. So good job. That's all I think it is. So,
There you go. I like it. What's your
yeah.
reality check here?
I feel like that covers both. We can just
Yeah.
use that
Okay.
as both of our realities because it's good. It's
There
good.
you
The
go.
only other thing I was going to say for my reality is that I finally got a brand new bullet journal and started using it as a bullet journal. And I wanted to tell you because I know you'd be so proud.
Oh, I
And it's
am proud.
I just want to show you one page. Just one page. Hold on. Ready? I haven't started doing it yet, but look at how pretty it is.
I
I've
love
got
it.
other
Now
things that
remember,
I
it's not so
actually
much about the pretty, but the fact that you use it.
Well, so the guy that created the bullet journal says that it's about function over form. Form could be pretty or messy. Don't worry about it. Do what makes it function well for you. And when it's pretty, it makes me want to write in it more. So,
Oh no, I get
function.
that. But I'm just saying, make sure you use it. It's the function
Oh,
part. Make
oh
sure you
yeah.
use the brain.
Well, the
And then
Braindom
at the
section is
beginning, at the front, put the key because like I have like 5 brain dump pages like that in my journal now.
it's the special. I don't know how to say the brand. It's a German brand that comes with the key. Like it
Oh,
comes
sweet.
with the thing in the beginning.
I mean, like
Um,
not necessarily the key, but
no, the index.
yeah.
That's what you meant.
Yeah, because I can go
But
and see even previous brain dumps, even if I've checked them all off.
I have other brain dumps. This is just if they don't fit in the week. Like if it's a big brain dump, that's where I'm gonna
Yeah,
put.
that's what I mean. My stuff that's for the just brain dumping when I'm feeling overwhelmed, and it's not necessarily for my week, but overall things I know I need to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is my May page. Isn't that so pretty? I love it. I'm going for the minimalist look there. Anyway, and here's my brain dump for today. So I'm using it. Don't worry.
Good. I'm
Don't
so
worry.
proud.
I'm very excited about it. Didn't I tell you about the bullet journal?
Proud. I mean, it was
I feel
so
like I.
big.
Oh, I was like,
You
you
may
should get a
have been
bullet journal.
the
It's
reason
awesome. And then I
that I
didn't implement it.
finally did it. I'd seen it and I was like, I don't know if I want that or not. And you're like, oh, it's amazing. And then I finally decided to do it.
Yeah. I never used it the way it was supposed to be used. And
Well,
now I
see,
freaking love it.
I don't think there's a supposed to for bullet journals. That's how I feel about it.
Well, I think you're wrong. And I think you're not maximizing your journal because it's not supposed to for like it's not one set way for everybody, but I think it's like the way you're supposed to do it in the way that benefits you the best to
Oh,
make
yeah.
it like with the like migrations and stuff. Do you do migrations?
Meaning like you bring it like forward in the.
Yeah, but do you like mark when it's migrated and stuff? It's just so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, then you're using it the way you're supposed to.
I feel like
I
I
was
don't put
using it.
a planner in it. I need the big planner.
Oh, well, that's fine. Anyway,
Okay.
so let's get into it.
Today's episode, drum roll please, is all about not
Relationships.
in relationships.
Yes.
Because it's freaking hard. Relationships are hard. And anyone who tells you that they're not is a liar, whether they're lying to themselves or lying to you. That's my
Yep.
opinion.
Oh, I fully agree. You ain't
Yeah.
gonna get anybody to fight you on that one. Because it's true. It's so true. And like it bothers me. Wait. Will they have heard from Mariah yet at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It bothers me.
Okay.
Okay. It bothers me that we have this like Disney princess upbringing that tells us that we just have to find our prince and get our happily ever after. And then it's all going to be happily ever after. And I just don't believe in that. I believe that, I believe that we need Cinderella too, where you see her struggling as a mom and,
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out Prince Charming when he like goes on his weekend hunting trips and she's not sure if he's like mad at her or whatever. Like there's so many things, there's so many intricacies to every human being. And then you put two of them in one house all the time. Then you add other tiny human beings into that house. I mean, it gets overwhelming if you don't come to it with the right mindset, I think. But of course, I'm all about mindset.
And guys are fed something too. I don't know whether it's like that they happen to see Disney movies when they're little, or there's something else, or it's their wiring and what the message that they're fed as they're growing up. But they're fed that, oh, like once I have a wife, she'll do most of the stuff. Like it's almost like an unwritten rule. And it's easy, and if it's not easy, then that's BS, and it's not my fault. Or I mean, both humans really have that messaging too. And as someone who was married for 9 years and is divorced, I see so many people who are divorced like, oh, don't come to me for relationship advice because I'm divorced. But for me, it's taught me so much about myself, about relationships, so that I can go forward and have better relationships, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
As someone who fought tooth and nail to save and keep her marriage, no matter what, including, the cost of myself, I feel like I have some ground to stand on in this.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like people saying like "don't come to me" is just like a shield, to prevent you from saying you're bad at marriage or you're bad at relationships, And so like if you are out there and you did get a divorce and you feel like you failed, if you feel like some level of shame in that, don't, because it's part of your life, it's part of your experience, and whether you fought hard for it or feel like you didn't fight hard enough, it doesn't matter. It did give you some lessons. So it's not about what happened in the past. It's definitely about going forward and how that's going to impact your future.
Yeah. So don't keep you, we talked about this in one of the recent episodes, but don't let it keep you in victimhood. Don't be a victim to the divorce, no matter what caused it. Let it be a lesson for you and be able to delve into yourself and realize, oh, like, because in any relationship, both partners have some percentage of wrongdoing, especially if there's a demise. I did a lot of listening and research this morning on some interesting things on relationships.
Well, before we get into that, can I give my perspective from like somebody who's been married 7.5 years, and still married? I also I feel like it's definitely, I mean, because you said like when it reaches its demise just now, I think that every marriage has a risk of demise. And if you're in a marriage, like if I spoke to the divorced women before, but if you are in a marriage and you're like, dude, I am not in this for the long haul, I just want to say I've been there too. Like I've been married for 7 years. I've known / sort of dated Jay for 14 years. Yeah. Sorry, I had to do math. And there came a point where I'm like, why am I even bothering? And so I do think that those moments can come and there's a way out, especially if both parties are willing to make that effort. So like, I think in your case, both parties were not willing to make that effort. And so it made it a lot harder. But if you have a husband or wife that is willing to work on your relationship, don't feel like it's over yet, because it just work takes work, and it could take years, but it doesn't mean that it's over forever. Oh my gosh, I just watched Crazy Stupid Love over the weekend. I'm so glad I did. That was the perfect. What?
That's one of my favorite movies.
Oh my gosh. I watched it when it first came out. Like I guess it came out in 2011. I probably watched it in 2012 when Jay and I were just dating. But now watching it like 7 years plus into marriage, I used to relate with Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, and now I'm like, Steve Carell, like I just love you and I want to hug you, and you fight for that marriage, man. Oh, so good.
I know, it is so good. My number one. So speaking on all relationships, and I mean, everyone that I've known, friends, my mom, my dad, like everybody that I know who's close enough to me that will talk to me about their personal and intimate lives, there's like I think they call it even like the 5-year itch, right?
Somewhere itch.
Somewhere between like 4 and 7 years in any relationship, whether you're married or not, but it's a serious relationship. that's like when the time comes where people go, holy shit, what is going on? This isn't working. I must be crazy. They must be crazy. And that's
Mm-hmm.
like the make or break point. It's the, okay, we can do this, or no, this is not it.
Yeah.
And preface all of this with, there are definitely, certainly times where your relationship is not worth fighting for. Some of those
Mm-hmm.
things are your own personal boundaries if they've been crossed and they're not something that they don't like, follow through with your values. And some of them are, for me, I mean, I'm not a psychologist or a professional, but I would say if there's any sort of abuse, that's not, it's done. So I want to
Yeah,
put that out there and not and say like
absolutely.
that's not a case where you fight for your relationship. There is no relationship. That's yeah.
And to speak to that, there's different forms of abuse. It's not
Mhm.
always physical. There's
But
also emotional, verbal,
mm-hmm.
mental. Like if they're telling you something and making you feel way less than you actually are, and it's totally destroying your mental health, your mental strength, any of that. I mean, you can talk to somebody professionally to see if it's worth staying, but if that's going to continue, I don't
Yeah.
think it is.
And this would not be the podcast episode for you.
No, not
Be a
at all.
thing. Um, but yeah, so I looked up a lot of interesting stuff. I found 4 habits to have in a healthy relationship. 9 signs. I like this one. 9 signs of a healthy relationship. Like when
Ooh.
you're in that thought process of, oh my gosh, we're just too different, or oh, we just fight all the time, or whatever it is that's getting you down at the moment. This is like the 9 signs for you of, oh hey, there is that light. This is just a hard time and we have to get through it.
Mhm.
Work through it, not get through it.
Yeah.
So the 9 signs of a healthy relationship. Number one, the ability to communicate with your partner's love language. Especially so if you know that you're able to do that and you see that your partner is reaching out and trying to understand you and trying to show their care for you in that way, then they love you and it's worth fighting for. That is a good relationship. You just have to figure out like what's missing and have open communication.
I think for that one, so that's something that Jay and I actually really had to work through because his love language is um, acts of service. And so it took me a very long time to understand that he was doing the dishes because he loved me. Like, yes, in my mind, the dishes need to get done no matter what, but he
Mhm.
would like do them all and do them regularly because he thought that it would help me. And I didn't recognize that. I was looking for my love letters, I was looking for gifts, I was, where's my surprise date, romantic getaway? And that's
Mhm.
just not, he's not a, like a romantic guy in that way. And I like even this week while he was gone, I was just thinking like he absolutely loves me. He called me consistently, told me how much he missed me, was really kind of sad that he was gone, even though like I made him go race. And he was like, I shouldn't be here. I should be with you. And like that's not, I mean, like that is kind of words of affirmation of sorts. And but it's not something that he says regularly, but it is what he's always thinking. And that's why he does things like clean the house or empty the trash or like wipe the baby's butt or whatever when I don't want to. And so I think a lot of women want that from their husbands. Like I'm the opposite. Like I mean, I guess I expect it, but like him doing that doesn't show me love. Whereas like if you're like, why doesn't my husband do that? Well, maybe he's doing something else. Maybe he's hanging out watching TV with you because he shows love through quality time or I'm like you just have to I think that
But
one is so specific
but
to
it
look around.
but it
What?
takes talking to each other. And so if your partner is showing you love in the way that they like to receive love, then maybe you need to help them understand, hey, that I do love that and I appreciate it, but what makes me feel loved and appreciated is when you buy me a random chocolate bar, or that showing that you understand me and are putting in the effort to love me in the way that I feel it.
So I would say to that though, like, because I've had that conversation with Jay, and he knows that words of affirmation is my thing, and he still struggles with it. So because there's certain things that just come naturally. Well, what I was gonna say is like you have to in that situation when you communicate it, you can't have high expectations. Like I communicated it to Jay, and I did not get a 9 stanza sonnet. Like I know that like that's very extreme, but I did kind of expect a little bit more at first, and then I had to learn like, okay, he's never gonna write me love letters. Although maybe I need to remind him like, hey, I'd like a love letter. But he's so nervous about his words. He thinks that he doesn't say good words, so he holds himself back from saying it. But one thing I think maybe I said it on a podcast episode and he heard it. I said like the best thing he's ever said to me is you're doing a good job, and he's like, okay, noted. So he'll say that to me all
That's
the
what this is
time.
talking about, is the fact that he got it, he got the
Mhm.
message, and he's trying, even though it's out of his comfort zone.
Well, but what I'm saying is that he heard that podcast episode in 2020.
I mean,
I
I'm not saying
told
this is,
him,
but it's the fact that he's trying. He's
right. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying for the women out there that are hearing this and saying like, "Oh, I've told him and he's not like he doesn't even know." Like it could take a long time for him to learn how to actually do it if it's not his first go to. Like it took Jay like 5 years to figure out all he has to say to me is you're doing a good job.
Mhm.
But like he was trying other ways and kind of every now and then would occasionally say I'm pretty, but also felt really weird when he did it. So it took a
Maybe
lot from him.
you didn't know that that's exactly what you needed to hear until you said it on the podcast, or you didn't communicate it to him.
Well, yeah, I didn't know that. Well, I do want to hear that I'm pretty though too. He could say that more often, but he has a hard time doing it.
Yeah.
So I think, and he needed to like almost hear it secondhand that like this is good. Because when I tell him things, it doesn't always retain as well as whatever. So I'm just saying they're a work in progress. You have to give them a lot of grace and try just the same way that I saw Ray bringing me granola as a gift. If you're looking at things like, oh, that's him speaking to my love language, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if you have that approach to it, it's a lot easier on you than like you having heightened expectations that you say I want gifts and you expect him to bring you a dozen roses every time and he doesn't, kind of thing.
But take it on the other side too. Remember that you need to try to understand him
Mm-hmm.
and reconfigure, and the open communication part. I mean, communication is
Yeah.
one of the biggest things in relationships in general. Number 2 for signs of a healthy relationship is when your partner places you above other things. So your partner is always
There's a
showing
fly. Sorry.
it's
Pretty big
always
fly.
showing that they value you over other things. Like you are the most important or one of the most important things in their lives. Because when we don't feel value, that's when resentment starts to set in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big thing. Knowing like, and it shows up in different ways, and you got to communicate, and you got to kind of learn your partner, and it takes time to figure that out. Number 3 is not holding grudges overnight. And I know that's one of those things that you hear all the time of never go to bed angry, but it's true. And when you see from your partner and make sure that you're doing it too, all of these things, when they're willing to correct things when you guys get into conflict, that's a good sign. Conflict is good. All of the stuff, and I remember kind of figuring that out in my friendships when I was in preschool, even thinking, oh, like any of my friendships where we don't have conflict, as silly as it is in preschool, those are not my closest friends. I have conflict with my closest friends because that brings closer. Like
Yeah.
you're willing to then work through it and you learn so much from it. So willing to correct things, willingness to correct things, even if you don't see it right away, that's huge. That's something that I see with Jed all the time is when it's like the bigger the blow up. And I think, oh my gosh, I don't know. Even when we like resolve things, it's still like it feels like leaves a pit inside me. And then over the next few days, I realized, oh, he really took that into consideration and just did something that was so out of character for him, but it's because he heard me.
Mm-hmm.
So, number 4 is to be open to each other. That means trust and no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Number 5 distance is no barrier. So what you were just saying about Jay being away for the weekend and he stayed in communication, showing up and being there even when they're not there in person. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, I really like this one, is respects you in public.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they even talk about, not even being, it's fine to be playful and jokey, but don't be disrespectfully jokey in front of others. Or
Yeah.
if you hear your partner saying something incorrect, don't call them out in front of
Yeah.
everyone else. That's not, if that's someone who you value over everyone else, do you want them to look like a fool like that in front of others? So when you get home, talk to them, be kind about it, don't put them down.
That's funny. Yesterday I was the verse of the day in my Bible app was love protects. And it was
Mm,
just like such an interesting thought because they did it on Mother's Day, which I usually think like when I read it's that like the very typical like love never fails verse in Corinthians. So usually when I read that I think of like marriage, but the fact that they put it on Mother's Day and then said they went straight to the part that says love protects. I'm like, oh, like true love. If you mess with my children, I will cut you. Like I even
mhm.
over the weekend I got so angry. I don't think I've ever been so angry with Errol because he hurt Gray. So I'm like that was a weird thing because like I love you because you're my child, but you also hurt my other child, and so I am mad.
Uh,
And so I think like that kind of protective love is also what you should do with your partner in public. Like
yeah.
love on them, protect their heart
Even
and
if you're the
feelings.
one finding, yeah, if you're the one finding the fault, you're protecting them by not calling them out in front of other people and lovingly talking to them when you get home.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Yeah.
found in my relationships when if someone, and it's always in a playful way, but if someone does that to me in public, and if they do it enough, or even if they do it not in public and they do it at home and it becomes
Yep.
this like thing, I start turning into that person too. And I hate that.
Yep.
So, yeah, respecting each other in general.
Jay and I get into that cycle sometimes because he's very sarcastic. And so I have
Yeah.
to remind him every now and then, like, hey, you're being a little too sarcastic. Like our and it's fun, like the way you said it, it just starts like it kind of starts funny and then it just gets a little bit too much because it becomes more sarcastic than loving. And I
Yeah.
have to draw him back in because I do the same thing. I start doing it to him too. But
I think, and this was hard for me to read in Brene Brown's book that I read recently. She said that sarcasm, like literally, if you translate it, it means to tear flesh,
oh,
not like cut somebody.
oh,
Like, oh man, because like I pride myself on being funny and witty, and
yeah,
sometimes I'm or maybe more than sometimes I'm sarcastic because it's so a part of me now.
yeah,
But I don't want to tear flesh of people that I love,
yeah,
let alone really anyone else. But
right.
yeah, so keep that on your frontal lobe, right?
Just like one more thought on that too is that I think a lot of times I find myself thinking like Jay's an adult and he can handle whatever, like he's an adult. He can work through the sarcasm, the whatever like situation, awkward situation in public, whatever it is. And even sometimes when he comes home and tells me about like a hard day at work, I'm like, oh well, he's an adult. I'm just gonna give it to him, like tell him that like exactly what he needs to hear. But hear it.
Dog.
Oh. But sometimes like what he needs to hear isn't actually what he needs to hear in that moment because yeah,
Mhm.
he's an adult, but he's also a human and he has feelings and like if I just lay it out flat and don't protect his emotions, it
Mhm.
gets rough and he's just like, "Why are you being so mean when I'm being so vulnerable and in a place of hurt?" So, yeah, I fully
Yeah, we
agree.
talked about treating ourselves how we treat our friends, not speaking about ourselves how we would not speak about our friends. And then here's the most important person in our life that we're anchoring our lives to. They need some love and tenderness too.
Mhm. Yeah, they
Treat them
do.
how you want to be treated. Do unto others as you want done unto you, right?
Yeah.
Whew, what does that say?
Is it your handwriting?
Yeah, but it's my handwriting become awful lately. Settling argument. Oh, settling. This is what I was talking about earlier. Settling arguments bond you. So
Oh.
the more conflict you have, as long as it's constructive conflict, like you get it out, you listen to each other, and you are able to communicate. You're not always going to agree either. Like that's just not going to happen. We're two different human beings. We are not always going to be in agreement. It's okay to agree to disagree sometimes. But being able to have the conflict and then get through it and get to the other side is going to bond you and make you closer because you've both opened up in a vulnerable way. So you're both getting to see each other a little more, and you're also getting to see yourself a little more and doing it together. And then as long as you're coming out the other side in a healthy way, in a constructive way, and hopefully both of you see a positive difference, then that's just going to make you closer in a strong relationship. Number 8 is having good intentions and helping each other grow. So always having good intentions towards your partner, wanting to see them grow. It doesn't necessarily mean
Hold on one second. Hold on. Shh. No. No, Dex. Baby's asleep and Dex is barking. So sorry. You can keep talking, actually.
So it doesn't necessarily mean making the other person grow or being part of their growth journey, like doing the exact same thing as them, but supporting them in their growth and always having good intentions toward them and just being excited for them for their journey that they're on, if it's a personal journey. And then number 9 is that your voice matters to them and they appreciate your opinion. Again, doesn't mean they agree with it, but they want to hear what you have to say and they will appreciate hearing what you have to say. And that's what makes a relationship: communicating, talking, learning, growing. Yeah. So if you are in a pickle in a relationship right now and it's really hard to see the light, but you can see even like a tiny speck of one of these 9 signs, there's hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think relationships are worth fighting for. Like if you, I mean, because in the moment you're just like, we're so different. We don't even connect. Why am I even trying? But like, there's a reason you got in that relationship to begin with, and that's still there. That's like having gone through that and on the other side. That's what I can 100% attest to is I I fell in love with him because he's witty and fun and he makes me laugh. There was a time where I wasn't laughing. And it
Mhm.
wasn't just because of our relationship, it actually was a lot to do with me. I was in a really bad place. So I kind of gave up on everything. And then getting through that now and being back, like we went to therapy together. We communicate constantly. Like sometimes at home, it sounds like we're having a therapy session the way that we talk through things. But like he's just he was gone for 4 days and I loved the time alone, but I'm so excited to see him like
Mhm.
come back, like I just want to be with him constantly and also not, like I don't know. He's the perfect blend of cute and sexy. Just kidding. Do you know
I feel
what
like
I
we're
did there?
playing, I feel like we're playing Dream Phone now. No, what's that from?
It's Crazy Stupid Love.
Okay. Oh.
But yeah, no. From Dream Phone? What is Dream Phone? What was that?
It was like that game where there was like the phone and you called the crushes or
Oh,
remember.
yeah. My friends had that. I did not, but I think I always
I
wanted
did
it.
not either, but I played it with friends and I loved
Yeah.
it. Some of my big takeaways from because I listened to various things. I listened to fighting. No, I listened to 4 Habits to Have a Healthy Relationship. I listened to 9 Signs of a Healthy Relationship. I listened to the 3 Secrets to Happy Relationships. And then I listened to some of John Gottman, who is like the relationship guru guy. Like he literally searches relationships and it's very interesting to listen to him. But some of my biggest takeaways were relationships. The biggest things about them are connection, communication, and play and growing together. Like those are all such amazing things. Why?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not always going to feel like they're at the forefront, but making sure that you can get through and then find those things again. And sometimes it takes, like, it's never 50-50. Sometimes it takes one person taking the load a little more and interjecting, like, okay, in this moment, they didn't do their dish. I could be really pissed off at them and passive aggressive. And believe me, I've done this and still do it. And, like, stomp around the house. Or I can, one, just do the dish and get it done. And it took me less than 2 seconds. And, or two, like, be playful with him. Like, say, hey, you look cute today. Or even, well, here, this is something from one of them, was the 3 secrets to happiness. One, just to happy relationships, was using I would love it if statements, but using them in the correct way. This is one versus negative statements where it's really.
I would love it if you would just clean your dish already.
But also not being passive aggressive about it. But using it, you never want to use it in a negative way. You never want to use it in the past. So it's not, I would have loved, or I would love it if you would have blah, blah, blah. It's, I would love it if you could help with the dishes more. Or I would love it if you snuggled me at night a little longer. Or I would love it if we could have date night once a month. And then always, just like, I mean, it's silly, but we're all humans, so kids are humans too. But just like we talk about with parenting, of reaffirming the positive behavior that you want to see and not focusing so much on the negative behavior that you don't like seeing, that's going to make them want to do it more. We all like rewards. We all like hearing we're appreciated and doing the right thing. So even if it's they put the dishes in the dishwasher and, well, yeah, of course he should put the dishes in the dishwasher, or she should, because that's what you do and you're an adult and you're standing there, so do it. It's, hey, thank you so much for doing the dishes. I really appreciate that. That allows me to go do blah, blah, blah. Or it allowed me to not have to do it this time.
When you said that, it made me think of how Jay, like, he knows that one phrase to say to me all the time, and it still works. Like, every time he says it, I'm like, thank you. Thank you. I am doing a great job. Like, because I need it constantly. But another thing he does regularly is buy me chocolate, dark chocolate, because he knows it's a surefire win. And I also, like, there was one time that he got me like 85% or something, which is way too dark, but I didn't complain about it. And so he got it. I'd still eat it. Like, he'd get me food, I'm gonna eat it. And he got it to me, like, again. And then I think one time he saw me get a little less, and he's like, oh, I thought you liked 85%. And I was like, oh, actually, I like this one better. So he switched, right? So, because he knew, like, this is a success. But I get mad at him because he doesn't plan, like, big events. Like, I wish he would just plan a secret date. Like, I'm like, Enneagram 7, it's everywhere, says their special date night is like, or what you could get them is a surprise date. That's all they want. That's all I want. And he won't do it. And you want to know why?
That's not the 7th thing, girl. I want, like, all I want is to be surprised in a nice way like that by anyone.
Well, I think that a lot, I do think a lot of people want that. But, like, if you look at the list of, like, what to give each number, that's always the one thing to give a 7. And the reason he doesn't do it is because he's tried something similar a few times, and I apparently had a negative reaction to it. Like, it was met with, like, oh, this is where we're going. And so he won't do it anymore because he doesn't want that failure. Where if I would have just been like, oh my gosh, you took me on a surprise date to this place I don't like, but hey, it's an adventure. Like, that was my mistake. And so I need to tell him. I would love it if he took me on a surprise date to any coffee shop. Maybe if I give him more direction.
Yeah.
Give me.
I mean, that's what I did yesterday with Mother's Day. He was like,
oh, yeah, you did.
What do you want? I was like, well, I would love to go strawberry picking, and I would love to not have to figure it out at dinner. And then he was trying to think in the morning. He was really racking his brain trying to figure out dinner, but it was all things that he would like and things that I don't like at all. And I was like, does that sound like something that I'd like to eat? He was like, oh, I'm just trying to think of things. And then finally I was like, you know what? Make me just like a huge charcuterie board for dinner for all of us. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Connection, communication, play, grow together, accepting our own responsibility in things in the relationship is also key. I mean, even at the end, towards the end of my divorce, and especially after my divorce, and even now, just yesterday, I was thinking of something of, oh my gosh, that was awful that I did that, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was not a one-sided thing at all.
Yeah.
And then small appreciations, like tiny little appreciations, like we were just talking about, and respect, like showing respect even in the tiniest ways, goes such a long way.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would add one thing, which maybe, what did you say? Communication and what was the second C?
connection, communicate. There wasn't
Connection.
connection,
Connection.
communication, play, and grow.
So the one like little thing I would add is just kind of piggybacking off of what you said, like knowing that you're not like like taking your blame when you're wrong or whatever. I would say just like understanding where you are and understanding where he is,
Mhm.
because if there's something bigger going on, it's it's gonna like that is affecting it, whether you say it's affecting it or not. If you're mad at work and you're coming home and fighting with your spouse all the time, it has a lot to do with work and very little to do with your spouse. So
Mhm.
like if I mean, because like looking back, the times that I was frustrated with Jay, I said like I was not. That was when my depression was the worst, and I kept thinking there was a failure with our marriage, but really there was a failure with my mind. I needed to work through that. And then times that Jay has like not been the greatest to me, like he's stressed out at work, and if I acknowledge that and see that and don't take, not that what he's doing is okay, but I don't take it as personally because I know that he's got a lot going on elsewhere, and I try to take a deep breath and work around that versus trying to or versus just like instantly reacting to the immediate. So
Well, I have my huge advice that I was going to say for the end that I'll touch on in a second. But piggybacking off what you just said, in any relationship of any sort, whether it's even like you and a colleague, or you and your boss, or you and the person at the grocery store, it's we so often take things personally from other people, whatever the communication is, whether it's verbal or not, when 99% of the time, it has nothing to do with us and everything to do with what's going on with them.
yep.
But my biggest thing that I learned through my marriage and divorce and continue to use and figure out in my relationship but especially in a marriage or a significant other relationship, both people have to be happy within themselves. They
Mm-hmm.
have to be working on them, like have the growth inside themselves, be happy with what's going on with their own individual little personal lives. Like we still are two completely separate human beings. I don't believe in the like you complete me. I believe in you add to me. Like I
Yeah.
am complete in myself.
Mm-hmm.
They're so loud. You can hear them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
But I am complete in me, and I need to be completely happy within myself and who I am, and hopefully growing, like we always talk about on the podcast. And the other person needs to do that with themselves. And when those two people are together, then that creates joy and connection and playfulness and all of that good, positive stuff in the relationship. Because we do bring our baggage to the relationship. And like you said, when we see the other person is struggling, we need to not take it personally. And that's not and has nothing, again, it has nothing to do with the relationship. It's not the relationship that's the problem. It's whatever's going on personally. Um, but I know that so many people like will blame themselves or blame the other person for the relationship making them unhappy, or like in say like your partner is unhappy in themselves. They might not even know it. They might be so deep down and dark they can't even understand that, but they blame, okay, let's see, what do I feel is wrong? My relationship's making me unhappy. And then
Mm-hmm.
that tears you guys apart. Or the other partner could say, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong, I'm ruining this relationship because the other person's not happy. We do not control anyone's happiness besides our own. But as long as you see any little inkling of the positive sign that this is the relationship worth being in and worth fighting for, or if you believe it in your heart, as long as there's none of the abuse that we talked about, then you can put in everything that you got. And when you see it coming back, that's a relationship. And when you don't, and the other person has zero care to put in the work, and it's just like you can be your 100% self and the relationship's still not working, and that's not anybody's fault. It's just that's then for you to decide what you need to do about it. That's my 50 cents.
I would also like, this doesn't fully relate to this episode, but I think it relates to the moment of like, how do you persevere through the fight and the hardship? And we kind of talked a little bit about this in our Stand Up for Yourself episode, but I think the biggest thing that you can do when you're finding yourself in conflict with your partner is to take a deep breath and just, if you can come to it from a centered, like relaxed, not angry, heightened perspective, it really brings the conversation down. I know, like, sorry, I got something in my eye.
I gotta leave
When Jay and what?
In like 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay. When I'm gonna make this quick, and then I figured we'd end it. When Jay and I like first started dating and we would fight, like I would just be so offended, like, like whatever, kind of based on what you were saying, I'd be so offended and I would fight back really hard. And then I kind of had a shift in my mind and realized if he starts a fight, what's going on? Like if I take a deep breath and bring comfort to it instead of anger, I get a lot further. Like you get more flies with honey than vinegar. Like bring as much honey as you can into the situation if you can, like if you're at that place, and see where that takes you. So
yeah. Just had one more thing. I don't remember. Sorry guys, you're gonna miss
it. Well, thank you for joining us once again on this rather heavy episode. I don't think it's that heavy, but it's sort of like, I don't know, it's good.
Oh wait, I remember what I was gonna say.
Say it.
It was kind of like a reality moment. So, as we always say, neither of us are perfect. Neither of us are like we live these truths and we're learning through them too, and always growing through what we're talking about on this podcast. And it is so totally normal when you get in conflict with your partner to get that fight or flight moment. And I hope, and I just, because I get it all the time. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's over. Like how can this be happening? Like we're never going to get past this. But you will. Especially if you are intentional about it and you purposely work on it and you purposely work on yourself and infuse joy and honey into the relationship. And just take a deep breath, like Sierra said, take a moment, realize what's going on with you, try to figure out what's going on with them, and finding the middle ground and what's going on versus, oh my gosh, this is over. So if anyone's listening and feels that way, totally normal. I believe Sierra feels that still sometimes. I know I
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's hard to like hit the brakes and be like, wait. Like I want to scream at you right now. But kind of like what you said, like you will get through it. One of the best pieces of marriage advice I ever had was one of my friends said, when we got in our first fight, I thought our relationship was done, but then we got through it. And so now every fight from there on, I'm like, oh, well, I got through the last one. I can get through this too. I think you can.
There's a quote from that show on HBO from years ago, Girls. It's one of my favorite pieces of relationship advice. It was like her dying great aunt, or maybe her dying grandmother or something. And she was there with her kind of boyfriend who she was pretending was her fiance to make her grandma feel good on her deathbed. And her grandma pulled her in and she said, "Come here, I have advice for you." She said, something along these lines, so don't quote exactly. One day you're going to want to like kill him or murder him. That moment will pass.
Aw. That moment will pass. Oh, that's so good. So good.
Yeah. And I'm sure they feel it to us too. So, you know.
Oh, yeah. No, we're perfect.
Pretty angel.
Well, thank you so much for coming back to another episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And feel free to comment or reach out to us on Instagram about whatever is going on in your relationship. We're going to be covering relationships this whole month. So if you're not in a relationship, you could still get life advice for your other relationships.
Yeah. The future.
But yeah, but seriously, if you're in some sort of struggle in any way, reach out because we love to talk through this stuff. And if you'd like to be a part of the show, you can submit a clip about what strength means to you. You can send that to podcast@inrawlife.com.
Until next week. Oh, I need to think about this for a second. Even now. Until next week, if you find yourself in any sort of fight or flight conflict situation, remember what we said. Take a moment, take a breath, realize who and what is happening, and then pour as much love as you possibly can into the moment. I hope that you find at least one other tip in here that you use and utilize, and please reach out and tell us what that is because we want to celebrate with you. And I don't know.
If you're in stress, just pour some honey on it. That's what I
I'm going
got.
to go with that. Again.
All right.
Bye.
Oh, you're taking my actual.
Yeah, I'm just going to use it. That's way better.
All right.
Because I appreciate you, Sierra.
Thanks for letting me do your button.
Welcome.
All right. I will stop recording. So